Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Now let's get on with the Act 8.1 exploration guides. This one is Act 8.1.2, and for those of you who are in a bigger rush, I'll do something that I forgot to do about 8.1.1. I did a small write-up where I basically described each and every single one of the paths: power suppression, weapon strike block, fortification, combo party, bloody mess, and weapon special one, and also bosses. And these are kind of the suggested counters. These are not all the options. Obviously there are plenty more. There are many champions that can do these lanes. These are just some of my recommendations. Those of you who are in a rush can just take a screenshot of this and get on with your day. For those of you who do want to hear full breakdown, well, stick around and I am going to do that. And then before I end the video, I'm going to show this same write-up yet again. So let's start with the first lane here, where we have power suppression, redlining, arms race, avarice, and bubble shield. And this lane is basically science debuff spammers go. So any science champion that has access to a lot of debuffs is going to do quite well here. Thanks to redlining, you can spam significantly more level 1s as well. If you are kind of careful in managing your power, the place where you want to be always kind of like in between 1 and 2 bars of power, and you want to use your level 1 just before you reach level 2, because you pretty much immediately is going to have 100% increased combat power rate, and that's going to be super helpful. And other than that, just beware that they might get some passive power gain. So if you have access to some Petrify, then you're going to be doing well. Void is great, Mr. Fantastic is great, Scorpion would do excellent. I did try out, do not pick Overseer. Overseer doesn't do well for this one, because the entire point is to not let them get much of power. So Overseer and Spider Ham I don't think would be necessarily the best champions here, but Mr. Negative will do well. Anti-Venom will do well as well. Captain America Infinity War, if you synergized him up, so on and so forth. Plenty of awesome options. Obviously, also note that half of the champions here are mystics, so I can definitely bring in a Human Torch as well. So yeah, basically science debuff spam go. Now this is disarm heavy unarmed strike block lane, and Massacre is a beast here. You will be dropping 800 level 2s. I have a video on my channel where I casually throw 800,000 level 2 in a block. Other than that, you have Valkyrie, you have Hulkling, you have Corvus, I believe even Yondu can do somewhat decent here, dropping level 2 in the block, and so on and so forth. You can also pretty much just ignore the nodes and bring in with whatever champions you're more confident with. The only thing to kind of note is that you want to avoid hitting their block until you disarm the weapon, and because of ticking time bomb, you need to be aware that you can only have 4 parries before it explodes your face, and you need to start striking their block. But you can just quite literally bring in any champion, ignore the nodes. But if you want to have a ton of fun, bring in Corvus, bring in Massacre, bring in Hulkling, Valkyrie, Karnak, and it's going to be amazing fun time. Now this lane was very fun because of Fortification node, where while tech attackers have an armor up buff, they are immune to bleed, poison, and cold snap effects. Whenever tech attacker would receive a debuff they are immune to, they gain a fury passive. And because of Chitonia's Thorns and the fact that ionized armor gives opponents armor ups constantly the more they go, and Chitonia's Thorns places a bleed for each armor up, you can end up with like 20 passive furies here. So the one thing you want to do here is let your opponents use special attacks, and the more special attacks they throw, the more armor ups they have, the more passive furies you will have. Just make sure that you use a tech that has an armor up themselves, and that's it. It's going to be great time as well. Only other thing to note is avoid parrying, because Be Like Water is going to let your opponents go unblockable. If you really cannot do that, then bring in ideally 2 copies of Magneto House of X alongside 3 tech attackers, and just activate a pre-fight for every single fight in this quest, and then you can freely parry as well, because Be Like Water only activates for a non-damaging debuff, which passive is not. So Magneto House of X here is going to be kind of like godsend for some of the trickiest fights if you definitely do want to be able to parry. Moving on, adaptive combo party, double down, right back at it, skill wrath. It's a very simple lane. Basically, just do whatever you want. It's honestly quite that simple. Combo Party makes it very punishing when you get hit, and because of right back at it, whenever you knock them down, they're debuff immune. You know, you can't also parry, you might end up getting hit. But in reality, just benefit from skill breath, so bring in skill champions, and don't knock the opponent down, and that's it. That would be my recommendation anyways. So just bring in skill champions, like Black Widow Deadly Origins, just ignore that special attack button, and you're gonna have a good time. Bring in Nick Fury, you're gonna have a good time. Bring in whoever you want. Skill champions basically get double the attack, and yeah, as long as you don't knock the opponents down, it's just a regular lane with basically double the attack. Now, if you do knock them down, then you can start getting prowesses and whatever. It's still fine. You can knock them down. It's just that they're gonna go debuff immune, making fight slightly harder. And moving on to the final lanes here, final two parts. Now we have Bloody Mess, Bleed Vulnerability, and Limber, Redouble Determination. So again, any bleeding champions basically. So Hitmonkey, Nick Fury, Black Cat, Mole Man. The one thing that you do want to avoid is somebody like Warlock, because there is a Limber lane here, and because Warlock only accesses bleed via heavy attacks, it would be hard to use Warlock without Magneto House of X pre-fight. But again, because Limber is here, you can bring in 2 Magneto House of X and apply Magneto pre-fight for every single fight here if you choose to do, and then bring in any bleed champions, and you're not even gonna have to worry about Limber. Super easy, nothing complicated there. Magneto House of X again here is a very, very good shot. So, and this last one, Unarmed Special 1, Personal Space, Fury Lane, and Red Wing Drone. Now, this lane is slightly more difficult because of that disorient, because you do need to basically push opponent to the wall and then knock them down, and then you can spam level 1s, and level 1s are going to do a ton of damage. The problem is, if you're super aggressive, they're going to be gaining Furies from this Personal Space Fury node, and also you're going to be having a disorient, so if they're going to have at least a couple of buffs, basically your parries are going to fail. So the best way to do this lane is kind of make sure that either A, your ability accuracy cannot be reduced, or disorient immunity with the APOC, or B, that opponents do not have buffs. So recommendations there would be like Black Widow Clairvoyant, easily nullify. She has fairly decent damage on her level 1. Diablo, again, you can nullify all the buffs on the opponent, no problem right there then. You can use Apocalypse, because Apocalypse can go disorient immune, and yeah, Apocalypse can have massive level 1s, and that's pretty much the idea. Archangel also, again, he doesn't particularly care about the disorient, and those are kind of like the better options. Again, just keep in mind that you do want to make sure that you have a way to knock down the opponents when they are next by the wall, but ideally use the champions they suggested, and it's going to be quite an easy time. As far as individual encounters go, there's nothing too difficult at all. If you use Black Widow Clairvoyant, this is going to be very, very fun and quick fight. Right, and bosses now. So let's find where the bosses are on the map. First one is She-Hulk, and the She-Hulk boss is kind of misunderstood, in a sense that you'd think that you really want a slow champion for this fight, but you don't really have to. Because first of all, whenever She-Hulk uses special attack, she's gonna go debuff immune anyways, and that's gonna be annoying because it's gonna purify your debuffs, and then she's also gonna be stun immune. But Newton's Law is all the node that you need to work with, and basically you just need to play carefully until she goes unstoppable, because she will as soon as she gains a Fury. But whenever she's unstoppable, you just need to land in an intercept. Now, obviously, intercepting whilst somebody is unstoppable is kind of a risky business. Therefore, ideally, you do want to use champions that have this kind of fail-safe guaranteed intercept mechanics, like Elsa, Mr. Negative, Kitty Pryde, Ghost, so on and so forth. And other than that, just be aware that you kind of have to slow play until you get this passive slow from Newton's Law on the opponent, and then it's a straightforward fight for 15 seconds. Once your slow expires, hit her very kind of gradually, slowly, because you don't know exactly which moment she's going to go unstoppable, and then again, just intercept, and you're going to have happy time. Now, this Black Panther boss is pretty much what everybody more or less is complaining about. because of the Sixth Sense, it's making very difficult to attack this boss, and also massive physical resistance, immunity to bleed, the best defense, explosive personality, so on and so forth. To explain the fight, basically you need true strike, true accuracy, or some other mechanic to bypass auto block. Now, they are giving you a bit of help with buff synthesis, armor up, precision, so you can use any champion that fairly consistently generates armor ups, because then whenever you dex, you're going to have a true strike buff for 15 seconds, and then you can basically ignore the rest of the nodes. Additionally, you can use champions like Corvus, who's going to get rid of all the armor ups Black Panther has whenever you parry, so you can always freely parry, and then, especially if you have Proxy Midnight Synergy, just gain a permanent true strike. You can use Odin. Odin does very well in this fight. You can use Null. You can use Hercules and level 1 spam, so on and so forth. I'm going to list a few more counters in that write-up. And this War Machine fight's very interesting because you have to get debuffs on you in order not to take damage. Because of this Ironclad node, when the defender is struck, they deal 20% of damage they took back to the attacker for each armor up buff they have. So that immediately leaves you with a couple of options. Either you need to get rid of the armor up on War Machine, but be aware that he's going to be getting extra armor ups every time you block. Or you need to work with this repulsive node, ideally using a villain champion, and make sure that you have debuffs on yourself. You're meant to get debuffs on yourself by blocking War Machine's level 1. That's going to give you all the debuffs you need. Never push him to a level 2, get 3 debuffs, use any villain, and you're going to lose a little bit of health, but you're going to get a lot of extra damage. So that is the plan. Bring in a villain, push him to level 1s, and that's it. Block those level 1s, never push him to level 2, and then just attack with your villain. Additionally, there are some other interesting options how to deal with this fight. For instance, Omega Red using tentacle attacks will take no damage back. You can use Strife, same idea, using his psychic attacks, you can take no damage back. You can use Namor, and that's going to be actually quite fun because you're going to be, well, throwing back all the damage you'd take, especially if you let him get a ton of armor ups. Namor can be very, very fun in this fight. I personally thoroughly enjoyed using Black Cat or other champions that reduce his ability accuracy. For instance, Archangel, I'm sure, would do plenty well also. Right, so that is it for this guide. So let's look at the write-up again. Power Suppression is the science path. Basically, all the science debuff spammers go. Weapon, Strike, Block, Massacre, Corvus, Hulkling, Karnak, ATC. Fortification, tech champions, ideally with armor ups already built in. You're going to have tons of fun in that one. Bring in Magneto, House of X, if you want to have easy time. Plus Mag House of X. And yeah, that's going to be straight up making your life easier. And combo party lane, you just bring any skill champions. And it's a bit annoying lane, but there's nothing too much to it. And here as well, bring in Magneto, House of X for the Bloody Mess lane in order to bypass Limber if you want to, but just bring in bleed champions. Weapon, Special 1, APOC, Diablo, Claire, Tigra, Wasp, Ghost, Kitty, all will do fine. And then we have the boss fights that Counterside just went over, where we have She-Hulk with Shang-Chi, Mr. Negative, Elsa, Mole-Man, Kitty, Ghost, Kingpin, Black Widow, Clairvoyant with Null, Odin, Corvus, Hercules, Hysig, Angela, Longshot, or armor-uppy tech champions, basically. And then we have War Machine, where you can use Namor, Kingpin, Black Cat, Hercules, plus Cap Infinity War, Null, Venom, Strife, and many more. Hope this is useful, and I need to get working to the next one, so I'll see you soon. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information